Welcome everyone to the BAASS Connect Virtual Sage 300 Financial Reporter section. I'm Neville Jones, one of the Senior Business Consultants with BAASS Business Solutions, and I'm going to walk through the Financial Reporter with you over the next 30 minutes or so. And we're going to create, view, print financial statements from within Sage Desktop, right within the Excel, Microsoft Excel software. So, on to our next slide, hopefully. Perhaps not. There we go. Sorry about that. So, we will focus on the access and processing standard, the canned financial reports in Sage 300, and there are a number of them. And we'll also create and produce a report, just a very simple one because we don't have a great deal of time. And so we're going to print from the desktop. We're going to open and modify the same report once we're inside Excel, which opens from within the desktop. We're going to print that report by department as well, just to give you another option. We're going to view some entry-level details from within the Excel report, and hopefully we'll have time to create a very simple report from scratch in the Microsoft Excel in Financial Reporter. So that being said, and for some reason my slide does not like to go ahead, but here we go. I'm going to open up Sage 300 now. This is the 2022 version of Sage 300 that I'm using, but this Financial Reporter has not changed significantly over the last several versions. So this basically takes us into the Sage Desktop. I'm using Sample Company Limited, and under the General Ledger, on the very last icon under General Ledger, typically, is the Financial Reporter, which contains two options. We can either print financial statements directly from here, or we can open up the Statement Designer, which ultimately opens up Excel. So I'm going to print financial statements, and just double click on this. This will take me to a screen that already defaults to a particular report. In this case, it's the Income Summary, or IncSum 02, which is an Excel file. This year and period is based on the session date that I'm in, Sage 300, or ACPAC as we used to call it. So it's 2021-11 based on the date. The report that it's asking us if we want to print it, we have various options. We just do it by account, or we can do it by segment. I'll leave it at segment. Actually, I won't. I'll put it back to account, which is the standard. And it's going to go all accounts, all divisions, all regions. And I could print it, preview it, send it to file. But for simplicity, we'll just use preview in this exercise. And then I'll click print. That opens up Excel, as you see. It then opens up a report that's got a lot of what looks like gobbledygook in there, but we'll understand what that is in a little while when we open up the report in Excel. So once it's opened and run, I can hit the zoom because the first display quite often looks like it's blanked out. And the zoom on this shows us that we've got an income statement for the 11 periods ending November 30th. There's a revenue, there's a cost of sales, et cetera, and it shows that we have a net income or loss of $3,437,000 and change, which is quite a significant loss, but it is Sample Company. And then this report also has on the next page a very quick, simple pie chart showing it's not that great for the report that we have, but it does show a few chunks of pie based on profit or earnings loss and before taxes and net earnings or loss. If I go back to that previous page, look at our 3.4 million. If we go back into the Sage Desktop, for some reason I happen to have two copies open here, but I'm going to open up the GL reports, go to the trial balance, standard report, balances as of 2021-11, and I'm just going to run it like that, again for the whole company. This is our trial balance. We get to the end of it, and we still have the same $3,437,000 as the gain or loss. So we know, and I quite often do like to go back to these crystal reports that operate from within the general ledger, just to double check my numbers when I'm working within the financial reporter, just because you want to make sure that you've got all of the accounts covered off. So in this case, we know we do. I can now close my print preview, close this, and then I'm going to go back to this desktop, back to my financial reporter, and then the statement designer. So this was just previewing the statements. This is the statement designer. One thing I forgot to tell you when I was in here in the print statements, this statement resides under the general ledger subfolder of wherever your Sage programs are. In this particular case, because it's a virtual machine, it's on the local drive C under Sage 2022 programs. 69A is a version of the product, and it's under the English folder. And then there are some standard balance sheet, income statement, quick balance, quick income, etc. What we're looking at is the Inc. Sum 02. So I just wanted to point that out before we go to the statement designer. When I fire this open, it asks me if I want to start the program, which I do. This then opens up a blank Excel workbook, which I'm sure you're familiar with. The difference in this one is we have an extra add-in on this workbook. So if I go to add-ins and then FR, which doesn't exist in the standard Excel, and then we have some FR view, paste, clear options, etc. We'll look at some of those in a moment. First of all, I'm going to open up that income sum, Inc. Sum 02. So this is just a standard open up regular Excel. It's under the C Sage, and there's a 69A ENG. There's that file that we looked at previously. This was the first thing that came up on the preview. And if we go down the page, we'll see what ultimately becomes the pie chart for the income statement. So this is what the actual report is driven by, is essentially this section. This section becomes what is known as the spec or the specification section. If your instructions do not exist in here, then the report doesn't bring that information back. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I'm going to go in and show you just a few of the pieces of how this thing gets built. The first 4 or 5 rows here are commentary lines, and they start with a period. So period means you can then put in a commentary. In this case, it's just specification, and then it tells you a little bit about what the report's going to do. Over here, we have this, and a lot of this other information comes from the FR formulas. So the first one is sample company. How do we get that in there? It says FR codename. I'm just going to delete it for now. I'm going to go back to my add-ins, my FR. I'm going to go to paste, because I can view or I can paste. I'm going to paste right here. And then that gives me a lot of options. And I happen to know that the company name sits under the FR. And then under there it says codename. And then I just paste, and then the company name comes back into where I just deleted it. So I'll close that. Then below, this is just Excel text. Then there's a fairly lengthy formula here, which uses a lot of the Excel functionality. I'm not going to get into that because we just don't have time for it today. But if I wanted to, I could put in just the year, month, and day. So I go to my FR paste again, and then under the fiscal, which makes sense because it's a fiscal piece, I have a few options. Start, end, quarter start, quarter end. I'm just going to click end. So it says fiscal end, and it's not the year end, it happens to be the period end. So I'm going to hit paste and close, and then this brings back a November 30th, 2021. And this is an Excel function. If you then want to, modify that formatting, you can say, let's make that, the long date, and say OK. And sorry, I forgot to have the text field in there. But you get the point. If you need to, you can always copy this formula, or if depending on your expertise within Excel, you can do lots of things with the once you've brought in the formula. So if you want to, as you're going along, you need some help on this, because I'm going to run through a lot of this fairly quickly. You might want to go to the help screen. Don't go into help through Excel. Again, go to your add-ins, go to FR, and then help. And this will take you directly to a website as long as you have a valid internet connection. And it takes you to the Sage 300 website. And it takes you into the help screen. And this particular help screen is going to go to Financial Reporter. And then it's got some menu commands, FR clear, drill down, paste. It tells you a few things about what makes these things up and what you can do with them. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here right now because we just don't have the time to do so. Going back to the report, you need to know that these 4 columns, A, B, C, and D, are the main parts of this report. This is where the programming comes in. A is where you put in this // which means it's a new command line. And also in column A is where you put your accounts. In this case, %% means all accounts. It's a wildcard for all accounts, but I could have just an account number in there if I wanted. Column B, and this is all told and explained in the help screen. Help screens online. Column B is a filter column. In this particular case, we're filtering this report on account group code 15, which I happen to know in sample company is revenue. And then cost of sales, it's got more than one filter. It's account group code 19 or 16 or 17 or 18. So that's a filter on several. Then we've got, account group 20, 21, 24, et cetera, et cetera. That's column B, the filter. Column C, about the only function that you will need from within column C is if you put a Z in there and you happen to be running a report based on an account level detail, the Z suppresses the row if there's nothing, if there are no details to report. It just hides the row, it just doesn't bring the information back to the report. And then column D tells you at what level of detail you're going to report this information. In this particular case, because we're running based on account group, we want to see all of the accounts in total. So T is for total. If you wanted it in more detail, you would just put D. In this particular case, it's got T next to every place where there's a formula. The T could actually just sit at the top, because this is the instruction row. Anything that comes below is based on what's up in this instruction row. So in this particular case, we've got these values are hard-coded. They don't have to be. There are formulas that can bring account descriptions and account numbers. And then in column F, again, A, B, C, D, those are your specifications. Columns E and beyond, this is where the report actually starts. So in column F, in this particular case, we have a formula that came from the FR paste, and it's FRAMTA net year to date. And basically that's what it is. It's the net year to date for these accounts. So you get that just from the FR paste. It tells you right in there what these things mean. If you wanted to bring it in for a different year, if you want to put in a specific account or range. In this case, just put net year to date, hit paste, and then it puts it in here. Then you start building your report below there. So again, this means every account, give me account group 15, which is a revenue account. I want you to total it. Here's my title for that line. And then this backslash means whatever you've got as an account over here, take the instruction that you've got directly above me, which is give me the FRMT net year to date, and join those two together. So in this case, it's going to give you the net year to date for everything that's in account group 15. Okay. The reason this particular one has a backslash and a dash next to it is because the revenue information is going to be in the report and in the general ledger in as credits, because revenue is credits. So when it brings it to the report, this backslash with a negative sign flips the sign around. Does the same here for other revenue, but then when you're in expenses, all you need is a straight backslash. So once we've got that, and we know our spec report covers all of this area, I can now go to my FR view. This brings up the same screen that we had when we were on the print financial statements. It's got the same option. And all I've got to do is I'll leave the same values in here and just say OK. The beauty of this is you can get this report now in Excel, and you can look at it and make the changes as you see fit. As you can see, it's got the same result, 3,437,000. Here's your pie chart. And if you wanted to, right from Excel, if you could go ahead and print it, because that second page is the second page. So they would print on two separate pages, just like any other Excel function at that point. Okay, that's your Excel. What we can do with this same report, we can do it from our trial balance if we wanted to. If I want to run that exact same report, but I wanted to do it based on, division. And in sample company, there are two divisions. 100 is commercial, 200 is retail, or vice versa. But say I wanted to do it only for division 100 and run this. This is the GL trial balance in Sage. So it's not going to give me 3 million. It's going to give me a different number. Sorry. I went to my financial reporter by mistake. I'm going to close that and go back to my trial balance report, which is what I want. Trial balance, 2020-11. If I want to run this by my, as I said, my division 100, and then print that, we're not going to get a 3,470,000. Okay, we got a 503,959 is a difference there. So if I go back over to this report, when I do my FR view, I can also run this one based on a segment, either up here or down here. And if I want 100 to 100, say OK. I print it and I get the same number. So it's the same report. I've just filtered it based on what I wanted to do when I ran it. I can also, when I run it from here, just like running a trial balance, if I want to run it for period 10, I can do that. That's going to give me a different number, changes the date with that lengthy formula that's up there, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to save this. I'm just going to close it, which will take us back to just an empty workbook. What I want to do now is I want to just very quickly go in and try and show you how to build your own report. It's not as difficult as you might think, and please use this FR help. And in a little while, I'll also point out there's in fact, I'll do it right now. You can go to the Sage website, or if you went out to Google on your internet, just go to just any old Google, and if you search for FR quick reference, this is a quick reference guide for Sage 300. I should have put the Sage 300 back in there. Sorry about that. And this is the one that I use. Now, there's all kinds of them. This is an older one. It's Sage, it's 6.0, which is quite a while back, but it's only 24 pages, and it's a nice little guide to show you how to run the FR reporter, what the columns mean, what some of the instructions, and it's not the 260 some page full reference. It's just the quick reference. So it's just do a Google search for Sage 300 FR quick reference. Okay. Or if you want, essentially this takes you to the Canadian Sage website. Okay. Back to this quick report that I'm going to try to do for you. I don't have to put anything in from FR at this point. What I want to do is I'm going to put dot dot, which means this is going to be a comment. I'll call it test report. And then I'll go down here and I'll put 2 backslashes, which means this is an instruction line. I'm not going to use any filters in column B. I'm going to put a Z in column C because I do want anything with a 0 in the account to not show. And I want to show this report in details. Okay. Now I'm going to get to my FR information. I'm going to paste in this is going to be the account. This is going to be the description. This is going to be the current month. And this is going to be the year to date. Okay. Very quickly, FR, paste. First thing, very top of the list is account. Click on the drop down, and the formatted account code is down here. I don't know why it's so far down, but it is. Down there, click on that, paste, and that will come in there now. Then just go to next column, click next column, it'll take you underneath the description. Under that, I know that's back near the top. So it's a third one down. Paste that, next column. Then I want to bring in the current month, so it's basically the net for the period. So FRAMTA, net period should be right there. Paste that. Next column, I want the net year to date. And paste that and close. Then below that, what I want to do is I want to put in my equals, and then this needs to be text, but %% means all accounts. Over here, put my little backslash on each one of these, which means this will give me this description for this set of accounts. Okay. So when I run this, first of all, I'm going to put in a total here. Just standard Excel functionality once again. Total there. Total there. We don't need totals on the other columns because they're not numbers. And let's just put a couple of lines above and below it. And then we'll format this to comma with 2 decimal places. It's accounting, that's fine. So this at this point does not have a spec area, but once I run the report, this will become the spec area. So I'm just going to hit FR in the add-ins and view. I'm going to run the same period as I ran previously, but this will now be the whole trial balance. I'll say OK. And I actually need to, because I had division 100, I'm just going to run it again and get rid of that limitation. Get rid of that. And I don't want to leave the 100 because it will stop there. So I'm going to put ZZZ, which is the end of the line. And then I'll run that again. As you can see, it ran through. And when we go down to our bottom, it's a trial balance. It's going to be 0. But if I looked at just my profit and loss accounts, that's going to give me my 3,437,000. Okay, that's what that looks like. I can put, if I want to put in here equals account 4,000, and again I'll put it in as text, and then colon for 2, and then 9999. That won't get the balance sheet accounts now. It'll only do from the income statement accounts. So if I run that, there's my 3,437,000. I want to show you one more thing before we wrap up, because 30 minutes does go flying by, whether you're having fun or not. There is one other thing that we can do in here. Here I use the FRAMTA. There's another function, which is the FRTRN, which basically is a short form for transactions. So if I go FR paste and change that AMTA to TRNA, then go to the net current period and paste their close. It's exactly the same formula on this side, but when I run it, I'll show you what happens. FR view, same information. Okay, go ahead. And then what happens is you get these little red triangles. And essentially what it says is right click, choose FR drill down. So if I do right click and drill down, that takes me to the GL level of what makes up that balance, which is kind of cool. Okay. You can do that on any one of these. Now here's this one looks like a fairly small one. We could have a look. Yeah, it's just one entry there. So it doesn't make much difference when you only got one, but if you want to look at the big numbers, you could. Just be careful running this and using the TRN, because the more information it pulls, the longer it takes for the report. Just quickly to show you now that when I ran that report, it did make the spec number. It created that area for us, and then this becomes the report area right there. Okay. And that is basically that. Now, if you just want to go ahead and save that, just like any other Excel file, save it. You could, if you saved it into that area where we had the other one under that ENG folder, I can just call it test. And then once I close Excel, that becomes a report. If I wanted to look for it, I could print it from here now, because I've just saved it in that same folder. I just have to find it, and there it is. And that gives me exactly the same information as I just ran. I just print it as a preview, and it's going to run this report for us. Obviously, it's could be prettied up with the header and the name of the columns, etc. But you get the idea of how we build this. I'll close that, close this, close my Sage, try to close my Sage, and just go back to our PowerPoint, and I will just say thank you very much. Again, I'm Neville Jones, one of the senior business consultants with BAASS, and as it notes on here, if you want to visit the BAASS Connect website, you will be able to get, I'm not sure how quickly they're going to be available, I think probably right away, but you'll be able to get the this PowerPoint presentation, which has a few things in there to help you out. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed trying to bring this to you, albeit in a very short time. Thanks very much, and happy reporting. Thank you. Bye-bye.